Your presence won't be required this Thanksgiving, just immediate family this year. My father's text arrived while I was standing in the great room of my mountain ranch, watching my staff prepare for 40 guests he didn't know I'd already invited. The man who raised me to believe I was worthless had no idea his excluded daughter owned the largest private estate in Colorado, or that his immediate family was about to become the only ones not celebrating there. Hi everyone, my name is Sage. I'm 35 years old, and I discovered that sometimes the best family gatherings are the ones you're not invited to. I stared at his message, reading it 3 times to make sure I understood correctly. After 35 years of being included, barely, grudgingly, always seated at the far end of the table, I was finally officially uninvited. The reason was crystal clear. My sister Meredith's new husband came from old money, and suddenly I didn't fit the image anymore. Everything all right, Miss Sage? I looked up to find my property manager, James, holding the wine delivery manifest. Behind him, the cathedral windows of my 12,000 square foot lodge framed the Rockies in their early winter glory. Just my father uninviting me from Thanksgiving, I said, pocketing my phone. Apparently, I'm not immediate family anymore. James, who'd worked for me for 5 years and knew my history, frowned. But the aunts, uncles, cousins, they are all confirmed for Thursday. They don't know I've been excluded. Dad's hosting a separate dinner for just him, Mom, Meredith, and the Worthington clan. The investment banking Worthingtons. The very same. Apparently, my presence would dilute the sophistication. What my father didn't know, what none of them knew, was that while they'd been dismissing me as the unfortunate daughter who worked in tech support, I'd been building an empire. The dating app I'd created in my garage at 25 had sold for $200 million 3 years ago. The ranch, all 500 acres of it, was just one of my investments. I'd kept it quiet, partly out of habit from a lifetime of being overlooked, mostly because I wanted to see who loved me without the money. The answer, apparently, was not my immediate family. Should I cancel the preparations? James asked. Absolutely not. In fact, let's add more. I want this to be the most spectacular Thanksgiving anyone's ever seen. And James? Make sure the photographers capture everything. He smiled, understanding perfectly. I'll inform the staff. Black tie optional. Black tie encouraged. If my family wants sophisticated, let's show them sophisticated. I spent the next 2 days overseeing preparations that would have made Martha Stewart weep. The lodge transformed into something from a magazine spread. Crystal chandeliers throwing rainbows across hand-carved wooden beams, tables set with antique china and wildflower arrangements, fires crackling in all 7 fireplaces. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from extended family. Can't wait for Thursday. Should we bring anything? Kids are so excited to see you. Not one of them knew I'd been uninvited from the real family dinner. Dad had always been good at compartmentalizing his shame. Wednesday night, I called my cousin Beth, the family gossip. Hey, I'm finalizing place cards. Who's sitting where at Dad's? What do you mean? She sounded confused. We're all coming to your ranch. Dad said you volunteered to host this year since you have that rental place in the mountains. Rental place? Of course that's how he'd spun it. Right, just making sure. See you tomorrow. So he told them I was hosting at some insignificant rental, probably imagining a cramped cabin where the lesser relatives could gather while he dined with the Worthingtons. Perfect. Thanksgiving morning dawned crisp and brilliant. Snow dusted the peaks like powdered sugar, and the ranch looked like a winter paradise. By noon, the kitchen was in full swing. 3 professional chefs preparing a feast that included traditional favorites and gourmet surprises. The first guests arrived at 2. Uncle Pete and Aunt Sharon, who'd driven from Kansas, stood frozen in the driveway. Sage, Pete whispered, "What is this place?" "Welcome to Mountain Star Ranch," I said, hugging them both. "Let James take your coats. The mulled wine is in the great room." "But your father said," Sharon started. "I know what he said. Come inside." They entered in a daze, taking in the soaring ceilings, the museum-quality art, the windows overlooking private ski runs. One by one, family members arrived, each with the same stunned expression. My grandmother, my father's mother, gripped my arm. "Sage, dear, is this yours?" "Every acre, Grandma." Her eyes filled with tears. "And he said you were struggling. Said you could barely afford." She stopped herself. "I should have known better. You were always too smart to be what he said you were." By 4 o'clock, 43 family members were enjoying cocktails, children were playing in the game room, and laughter echoed off the timber walls. I'd hired a photographer who moved through the crowd, capturing genuine joy I hadn't seen at family gatherings in years. That's when my phone exploded. "Dad, where is everyone? The table's set and no one's shown up." I ignored it. "Mom. Sage, have you heard from the family? They were supposed to be here at 3. Ignored. "Meredith. This is so embarrassing. The Worthingtons are here, and it's just us. What did you do?" That one made me smile. Then Uncle Pete posted on Facebook, "Most incredible Thanksgiving ever at my niece's mountain paradise." Who knew our Sage was hiding this place? He tagged the location. Mountain Star Ranch had its own Wikipedia page. It was famous for being one of the largest private estates in Colorado, previously owned by a railroad baron. The photos showed the great room in all its glory, family members toasting with crystal glasses, the feast being prepared by uniformed staff. My phone rang immediately. "Dad. What the hell is going on?" No greeting, just rage. "I'm hosting Thanksgiving, like you told everyone. The rental place in the mountains, remember? That's Mountain Star Ranch. That place costs $50,000 to rent for a weekend. Actually, it costs nothing when you own it." Silence. Then, "You don't own." "I do. Have for 3 years. Funny how you never asked what I did after tech support, Dad. Just assumed I was still failing." "You're lying. Google my name and TrueConnect dating app. I'll wait." I could hear him typing, then a sharp intake of breath. More typing. More silence. 200 million? His voice was strangled. "Before taxes. But yes." "Why didn't you tell us?" "Same reason you didn't invite me today. Some families just don't fit together. Although I'm curious, how's Meredith explaining to the Worthingtons why 43 people chose my rental over their sophisticated gathering?" "Sage, sweetheart. Don't. Just don't. Enjoy your immediate family dinner. Your actual family is here, eating turkey that costs more per pound than you think I make in a week." I hung up and turned off my phone. Dinner was magical. We sat at tables arranged in a U shape so everyone could see each other. I placed myself in the middle, not at the head. This wasn't about power, it was about connection. Grandma gave the blessing, her voice strong, as she thanked God for truths revealed and families united. The food was extraordinary, but the conversation was better. Without my father's dismissive presence, people actually talked to me. I learned Uncle Pete had always wondered why I was treated differently. Aunt Sharon admitted she'd suspected I was successful when I never asked for money like Meredith did. Cousin Beth revealed that everyone had noticed the favoritism but felt powerless to address it. "You were the scapegoat," Grandma said quietly, reaching for my hand. "Every family seems to need one. I should have protected you. You couldn't have known." "I knew enough. Knew you graduated summa cum laude while he told everyone you barely passed. Knew you worked 3 jobs while he said you were lazy. I was a coward, Sage. We all were. You're here now," I said. "That's what matters." As dessert was served, 7 different pies plus a dessert bar that looked like it belonged at a wedding. Cousin Michael pulled out his guitar. Soon we were singing, laughing, sharing stories I'd never heard because I'd always been seated too far away to participate. That's when Meredith walked in. The room went silent. She stood in the doorway, her designer dress looking suddenly cheap against the authentic luxury of the lodge. Her husband wasn't with her. The Worthingtons left. She said to no one in particular. Said it was awkward with just the 5 of us. Said they thought it would be a proper family gathering. This is a proper family gathering, Grandma said coolly. You chose a different one. Meredith's eyes swept the room, taking in the opulence, the warmth, the belonging she'd excluded herself from. They landed on me. You did this on purpose. I hosted Thanksgiving for the family that wanted me here. You made your choice. Dad's in the car. Mom too. They want to talk. They know where the door is. But Meredith? They should know I have a strict policy at my ranch. No toxicity allowed. They've had 35 years to talk. I'm done listening. She left. Came back 10 minutes later alone. They won't come in. Pride. Then they can leave. Plenty of restaurants serve turkey. She stood there, designer shoes on my reclaimed wood floors, everything she'd been taught to value crumbling around her. I didn't know, she whispered, about any of this. The money, the ranch. Why didn't you tell me? When? During the family dinners where I was seated by the kitchen. During the holidays where Dad introduced me as the other one. During your engagement party where you specifically asked me not to come because your new in-laws might get the wrong idea about the family. I was just following his lead. I know. You were the golden child, Meredith. It's not your fault he made you that way. But it is your fault you never questioned it. She sank into an empty chair. Around us, the family had resumed conversations, but I could feel them listening. What happens now? She asked. Now you decide who you are when Daddy's not pulling your strings. You can stay for dessert or go back to your empty, sophisticated dinner. But if you stay, you're just Meredith. Not the favorite, not the special one. Just another cousin at the table. She stayed. She stayed through dessert, through coffee, through the evening games where she learned our cousins were actually interesting people. She stayed as the photographer captured the family I'd always wanted to be part of, warm, connected, real. At 10, my phone had 47 missed calls between my parents. I stepped onto the deck, the mountain air sharp and clean, and listened to the first voicemail. Sage, this is your father. Your behavior today was unacceptable. Lying about your circumstances, deliberately sabotaging a family gathering. Delete. The next was from Mom, tearful. Sweetheart, Daddy's upset, but I think it's wonderful about your success. Maybe we could visit. Delete. I didn't need their validation anymore. Inside, my grandmother was teaching the kids poker with cashews as chips. Uncle Pete was showing James his photo album from Vietnam. Aunt Sharon and Beth were planning a summer reunion, at my ranch, of course. And Meredith? She was in the kitchen, helping wash dishes, designer dress protected by an apron, laughing at something the chef said. Maybe there was hope for her yet. Miss Sage. James appeared with a glass of wine. Your father is at the gate. Security's asking if they should admit him. I looked back through the windows at my family, my real family, the ones who'd chosen to be here even when they thought it was just a rental. Who'd driven hours to spend time with the forgotten daughter. Who were finally seeing me not as the scapegoat but as myself. Tell security the ranch is at capacity. We've already had our Thanksgiving. And if he insists? Remind him that I'm not immediate family. His words, not mine. As I rejoined the party, Grandma caught my eye and raised her glass. Others followed suit until everyone was standing, glasses high. To Sage, she said simply, for showing us that the best family gatherings aren't about blood or favorites or immediate anything. They're about showing up for the people who show up for you. To Sage. 40 voices chorused. I raised my own glass, throat tight with emotions I'd never been allowed to show at family gatherings. To all of us, for choosing each other. Later, as the last guests prepared to leave, each one stopped to hug me, to whisper thanks, to promise this wouldn't be the last gathering. Uncle Pete pressed a worn silver dollar into my hand, his lucky charm from the war. For the girl, who was always worth more than they said, he told me. Should have given this to you years ago. Grandma was last to leave, driven by my staff because it was too late and too far for her to manage alone. I'm proud of you, she said, gripping my hands. Not for the money or the ranch. For knowing your worth when we failed to show it to you. Will you come for Christmas? I asked. Try to keep me away. As the last taillights disappeared down the mountain road, I stood in my empty lodge, but it didn't feel empty. It felt full of promise, of future gatherings where I'd have a seat at the table, my table, where everyone was immediate family if they chose to be. My phone buzzed. One last text from Dad. This isn't over. I texted back. You're right. It's just beginning. Happy Thanksgiving from the daughter you didn't want at your table. Turns out, I built a better one. Then I blocked his number, poured myself the good whiskey, and sat by the fire, planning Christmas. Maybe New Year's too. Hell, why not make it a tradition? The excluded daughter's holidays, where the only requirement for invitation was seeing people for who they really were, not who you needed them to be. 43 people had chosen me over him tonight. Had chosen warmth over sophistication, connection over convention, the forgotten daughter over the golden father. For the first time in 35 years, I'd had a Thanksgiving where I belonged. Not at the kids' table, not by the kitchen, not as an afterthought or an embarrassment. Right in the center, where apparently, I'd always deserved to be. My name is Sage, and I was excluded from Thanksgiving for not being immediate family. So I gathered all the family that mattered and showed them what they'd been missing all along, not just the ranch or the money, but me. Turns out the best revenge isn't a dish served cold. It's a feast served to everyone except the ones who thought you weren't worth a plate at their table.